we're back with another edition of the All Beef No Filler podcast presented by PBR Nebraska. I'm your host, Pascal Paul, Director of Scouting for Prep Baseball Nebraska, and joined today by the head coach of the Skutt Catholic Silverhawks, Coach Damon Day. How you doing, Coach?
Good, Coach. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. It's no snow right now, but it's coming. I have imagined we're going to get some right before the season starts. I don't want to speak it into existence, but I feel like it's inevitable.
Man, I saw the stat the other day that Niceville, Florida, and Destin Beach, Florida, has more snow this year accumulated than the city of Omaha. And being around Nebraska for as many years as I have, we as baseball coaches know that come that March 17th or 18th, we'll get that good 6 to 8 that'll just sit for a couple weeks and throw the whole season into chaos. But that's life in the Midwest, and it is what it is. So we'll handle it when we get to that point. But I got to steal a couple of weeks ago and get outside a little bit in our group. So the weather is what it is. It's an uncontrollable that you just have to deal with. But I'm definitely a little nervous that we have had zero snow to this point.
I don't mind the palm trees in Florida having to deal with a little adversity that we have to on a daily basis. So I feel bad for those guys down there in Texas and Florida for one bit.
Yeah, no, they live a different life as coaches than us Northerners.
That's for sure. Well, we'll get into it a little bit here. Season's coming up. Last year, first year at Skutt, went 14-12, district runner-up. What did you as the coach and what do you feel like the kids coming back learned from last year and all the experiences?
I think as a head coach, never coaching at the high school level before, I think I'm definitely more prepared for year number 2 than I was for year number 1. I think year number 1, I thought I was ready, but it's a different game. It's a different mindset. It's a different mentality. There's a kind of a different ebb and flow at a high school that I didn't really have a grasp for. We came out of the gates and we were 9-1 in our first 10, and we really were finding ways to win. And then I think we went 5-11 down the stretch and ended up really losing some games close that we really needed to win to not put ourselves in that tough district versus Elkhorn North and one of the best arms ever in the state of Nebraska. To have to try to beat him to go to state was not an ideal situation for us. And so I think that, trying to get our young people to understand the urgency of every single game in high school, and in college, you kind of have a weekend, you kind of plan it into it that there's going to be a weekend or two where you're not necessarily at your best, but finding ways to win when you're not playing well is really something that we've focused a lot on here in year number 2 is when we're good and we're going well, we've proved we can be really, really good. I think the problem that we really struggled with is when we're not playing well is just finding those ways to win, just executing that one play here or getting that big out there. And so I think really raising our floor when our bad performances come, how can we kind of raise those up and still find some dirty ways to win or just some grind out gritty wins. I think that's something that we've really been focusing on here in the off season is just a lot of mental prep, a lot of just conversations about when things go south, because they always do, is just how can we kind of handle it better. I thought last year we really rode the roller coaster of emotions and the wave of emotions. And when we got down, we never really could get up off the mat. We would try to, but we just didn't really have the systems in place for those bounce backs that we needed. And so I feel much more comfortable where we're at in a preparation standpoint and just a mental standpoint for where our program is going into year number 2.
You talk about some of those, I would say, roadblocks you had down the stretch last year. A lot of that, I would say, had to do a lot of how young you guys were. We got Huston and Bubba that are young that everyone knows about, but even Jace as your top arm didn't have a lot of just innings pitched as a pitcher. So do you see your team as the off season coming into this 2025 season a more mature, ready to go, have expectations rather than more deer in the headlights, just hoping and wishing we're going to figure it out?
Oh, without a doubt. I think last year's team, we came into the season, I think they graduated 11 seniors in that 2023 crew. I think we had 2 starters back last year. Gage Gunther and Jay Sciolo were kind of the 2 mainstays from that 2023 team that made it to the state tournament. I think this year we bring back 11 guys with varsity starting experience. So I feel way more the been there, done that. There's no under trying to like teach our way through it or excuse me, like you said, deer in the headlights is probably the best way you say that. There's a little bit more of a been there, done that. Jace has really established himself through last season and his summer season. and again this fall as a bona fide ace. I mean, he is the dude of dudes when it comes to our program. We lead him, he leads us, type of thing. And there's a calmness about him this year that is much different. I think, as a sophomore, pitch efficiency, strike zone efficacy, all those different types of things were huge roadblocks for him or huge question marks. And I thought he really did a great job last year in kind of answering the bell and coming out and being a strike thrower. We really simplified the process for him. We ditched the breaking ball, we ditched the changeup, and we just said, hey, here's my fastball. It runs and does enough. And I thought, as the season went on, he started to build confidence in kind of some of his other stuff, but he really started to hone in fastball command wise. And so, I mean, our season is going to begin and end with him on the mound. I mean, I think you put him up against anybody in the state, no matter what class it is. I feel like we have the best in the state on the mound. He's developed his second and third pitches, but most of all, I think he's just developed as kind of that, I am the top of the mound. I am the top of the ace in the pitching staff. And I think that just filters down to our other young pitchers. Just his confidence and what a worker in the weight room, just what a worker everywhere he goes. And I think he's really brought a lot of guys in our program along to his philosophy of, hey, let's just work. He's not a boastful guy. He's not a, hey, look at me guy. And I think a lot of our younger guys have kind of taken that approach. So I think that this year, just having that experience back of guys who now have been there, they now have done it. We got a ton of success in our program from some other athletes who are multi-sport guys. Joe Kaliga, big-time winner, state football champion. Dylan Van Dyke will come over after basketball season. He's a winner, Luke Van Dyke. So we got guys in our program who have won at high levels in other sports, and I'm really hoping that kind of helps give us a bump to some of our guys who maybe not have been there in the past. And I think those guys have definitely taken a great leadership role with our young guys.
Yeah, we'll touch on Jace, I think, in a little bit because he had an unbelievable Super 60 for us a week or two ago. But at Skutt, it's a whole athletic program there. I mean, you guys won in football. I believe you're top 2 in basketball.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Top in wrestling, top 1 or 2 in wrestling.
Yep, we just won duels on Saturday, and we're ready to make another run for a state tournament in the team title event or in the individual event in Omaha next week.
Spoiler alert: you're going to start as the number 1 ranked team in our rankings. So there's going to be at Skutt, it's expected. You're going to come in sport and you're going to play and you're going to win and you're going to work hard.
Well, and I think that really starts with our administration. I think our administration and Dr. Jeremy Moore and Mr. Rob Myers, our principal, and really the kind of the anchor to it all is our athletic director, Don Kasner. They hire great people and let them go to work and provide a tremendous amount of support. And so I think when you have that top down, that top to bottom approach, it just breeds winning. Coach Turman does a great job with the football program. Coach Juergens is amazing with our basketball program, and so I think it's a top-down approach that everybody is pulling for each other. The coaches are all super supportive. We all work together really well on sharing athletes. And so I don't think it's by just happenstance that Skutt is very, very successful. I think that there's a framework and a blueprint and an infrastructure in place for us as coaches to be as successful as we want to be. And I think it feeds from program to program. So and I'd be remiss if, I didn't mention our wrestling program and all their success as well as, and our cross country program. I mean, it's just, and then, it kind of starts with the godfather of coaches with us, Coach Saunders, in our volleyball program, and Coach Sabawa with our men's soccer program, winning 5 straight. And so I'm close with both Coach Sabawa and Coach Saunders because they're in my department and they've just been a trove of information. And so I think the willingness of other coaches to kind of help out and help build this culture. We're just a byproduct of it, and we're just trying to take notes and be students to what makes it successful. And it's a great environment to work in and day out, and it's a great athletic department to be part of.
It's similar to me playing when I played at I Western and coach there. Is every program motivates the other program. You don't want to be the program that just, or the player or the athlete, and like you said, sharing athletes. Who doesn't want someone who's had success in football come and be part of their baseball program? You might not be our best baseball player, but you're going to know how to win. You're going to know how to work. You're going to know how to motivate. There's so many good things and parallels to having a lot of success in one building like you guys have.
No, without a doubt. And I think that's where something that I didn't really latch onto last year. I was kind of baseball, but this year I've been around the guys and wanting to go to the games and see them be successful. I think that's something much more, they may not catch and throw as good as as some others, but man, they sure get after and have a grit about them and a winning mindset about them that I really feel like is a benefit to our program.
Yeah, mental toughness. When it is nut cutting time where you need to play, someone's there to make a play, to field the ball, to get a bunt down, whatever it is, because they've done it in another sport and have had that pressure on them before.
Without a doubt.
Well, let's get into some of the guys. We talked about Jace. Let's talk about Jace. He is, in my opinion, the top pitcher in the state, a bona fide absolute stud. He was 94, 95 for us at a Super 60. His breaking ball looks night and day better from last year. He's added a cutter and has a changeup. Like you said, last year, he just needed a fastball. He didn't need much more. They weren't going to hit it, and he knew they were throwing it, and here it comes. This year, he's added so much more, obviously his draft year, and has a lot more to give. You talked a little bit about him, but highlight Jace a little bit more for us and what he means to Skutt Catholic and what he's going to do this year on the mound for you.
Oh, well, I would say first and foremost, I mean, take away all the stuff that you just said, just from a day in and day out leadership perspective. He is the Pied Piper for our program. He brings the young guys along. He's got an easiness about him. He's got a competitiveness about him. He's got a work ethic that is just top notch. And I think he's brought a lot of our younger guys along. And I see Jace from a coach's perspective as well as a dad's perspective. I have a son on the team who's a sophomore. Aspires to get to where Jace is, and Jace has been nothing but a huge mentor and just a good friend to him. I mean, he gives him a ride every day after school to go lift and do those things. And so I think the character and the work ethic is what I would celebrate most. I've had a ton of scouts ask me about, what do you think? And I'm just like, the stuff plays. Let's face it. You can't take. He's a stuff guy. He's got some of the best stuff I've ever seen, and I got to coach college baseball for 20 years. And so, I think the character and the work ethic is what's got him to this place. And then you add that work ethic into it, added in with his talent. And like you said, I've seen him up to 97 in some bullpen sessions. The dogged work behind closed doors to get that slider and that cutter to do what he needs it to do. And really to kind of get out of his comfort zone and get good with that changeup is just something you don't see from a lot of young pitchers, especially when, let's be honest, we're not going to get to the changeup. It's just not going to happen this year. I'm not going to, slow down bats just so that he can kind of work on his changeup. But he's going to get some really, really good hitters out with that changeup. I think it could end up being a really, really plus pitch for him. He's got so much spin on the slider that is what it is. I think as long as he can kind of command it and not tug it, that's going to be just another thing that I think really, really good hitters. But we want that pitch efficiency with him up in that 70% range. Something I think he can easily accomplish. And so my job is just not to screw him up, not be dumb with the pitch calling. But when you talk about Jason's success, you got to add Gage Gunther into that, a guy that can handle that. We're blessed that that can be a real problem for a high school baseball program if you don't have someone who can really lock down and catch that type of arm. And we're fortunate we have a bevy of catchers here at Skutt Catholic that can do that. And so
Gage has been there for a while. Gage has been in your program. He caught last year. Another leader that you guys are going to look on.
Oh, without a doubt, Gage is a dude. Like he's kind of an under the radar guy. He had a huge football season for him. He was a state wrestling champion. He doesn't no longer wrestle, but he's just a gamer type of guy. Our job this year is to keep him healthy and keep him fresh. So he's going to play some first base. We got a transfer by the name of Cooper Smith in from Abraham Lincoln. Will Sims transferred over from Bellevue West. We got a really good freshman by the name of Sean Hipsher. So our catching room is jam-packed with guys, and Gage is the leader of that room. And so, just building kind of off of what Jace is able to do, it's great to have some guys that can kind of handle that. But, kind of wrapping it up with Jace is I've seen some arms. I've seen some really, really good arms in my day, and I don't know if I've seen anybody with as big an upside as Jace has.
Yeah, like you said, you can throw a radar gun up, and it doesn't take a monkey to figure out this kid's, really, really talented. But that extra work ethic. I mean, his brothers are really good wrestlers. I come from more of a wrestling family, and I know the work ethic that goes into that. And just everything that I've heard from him is A-class, top notch, top shelf type of kid. So it's awesome that you guys have that at your disposal, and Jace is taking the bull by the horns in the leadership role, because I think you guys can have a special season, and a lot of it's going to be due to the success that Jace has.
Yeah, and a lot of that's legacy, right? Like a lot of that is leaving a mark that'll be here long after he is gone. And I tell our guys all the time, like, what type of mark will you leave on the program? And I mean, I think his is going to be unmeasurable for his work ethic and how he's gone about doing his business will be something that I think we can build on as a program for the next 3 to 5 years, just on how he carried himself and how he went about doing things.
Well, you talked about it with your own son, but I know Easton Elam is a high quality pitcher that gets to be around Jace every day. Braxton Blank Jimenez, who's a young freshman, whippy arm that gets to be around Jace every day. Those are invaluable things that at times you can't coach, what they're going to learn from a Jace Sayola if he's not there.
Right. No, without a doubt. It's one of those that's immeasurable. It just is. We as coaches talk all the time, like peer and mentoring and player to player always goes farther than anything that a coach says.
We talked a little bit about Gage. The other guy, Joe Collega, he's a football star. You mentioned him earlier a little bit. But just as a leader coming over from another championship level program, what does he bring to the locker room, to the dugout, everything else that maybe we don't see on the baseball field?
Oh, Joe just shows up and gets it done. Simple as that. Like, it's not going to be flashy. He had a ton of opportunities in baseball, but had such a huge senior year in football that, when the right school came a calling in South Dakota State, Joe jumped at the opportunity to play Division I college football, and we're super proud of Joe for the season that he put together on the football field. But we're expecting huge things from him as a senior for us, and he's just a go about your work type of thing. He just gets it done. Like he's going to play center field for us this year, moving from third base. He's going to go to center field, kind of use those skills, those ball hawking skills on the football field, and use those in center field for us. And that's going to help us huge from a depth standpoint, because now we can be a little bit. We don't have to be as worried about who we got in left and right when you got someone like that kind of patrolling light pole to light pole. It makes it way easier for us to get some other guys in the lineup and get some guys moving around. And so you start to look at his impact of being able to be a lockdown center fielder. It just brings so much versatility to the entire lineup that, most people don't think, oh, well, he's just a really good center fielder. Well, yeah, but it also gives us an opportunity to hide somebody in left if we need to, or give somebody a day off, or maybe put a guy with a sore arm out there. And so Joe's going to be a huge part of our offense too. He's a clean hitter. I think he hit 380 for us last year. He's going to hit the top of the order. Hopefully get him a little bit more running this year. We didn't run much last year. That's more of a me learning as I go type of thing, that you can run a little bit more at the high school level than you can at the college level. And so I think our offense is really going to be something much improved from last year just across the board. But I think that really starts and ends with Joe Collega.
Yeah, he's a guy that mid-season, I think last year, you reached out to me about getting him into the state games, and he was having such a good year, kind of under the radar guy. And man, I'm glad I did. Like you said, the athleticism shined. He's someone that, like you said, not flashy. Kind of, you go watch a game, he's not necessarily going to pop out at you with all the stuff he does, but continues to provide ways to win baseball games, and that's invaluable sometimes. Obviously he's going to play football, but finding kids that can just win baseball games is paramount. Like you said, got to win dirty sometimes. And
he's a guy that was not going to, just by how the swing played and the speed plays, like he wasn't a guy that was just going to jump off the page and be like, I want that guy. But if you saw us played 1, 2, 3, 4 times, his name always ended up on your notes. And like I said, we're super excited about where he's going and the future that he has. But he's got a lot of unfinished business to help us out with here this spring.
Add to his ring collection that he got started already. I don't think he'd mind that.
No, I like that.
Well, it seems, Coach, the way you're describing it, we haven't got to the younger guys, but I think we know some of them. But your strength is going to be very up the middle with 3 high-quality catchers. You're going to have Jace, Bubba, Easton, some other guys on the mound. You got Joel patrolling the center field. You're going to have some youth probably in the middle with Easton, Bubba. Where do you see your infield shaping out? And with those underclassmen, where do you see them fitting in?
Well, our middle infield stacked. I mean, we got Easton Elam's going to be our starting shortstop, but he's also our number 2 on the mound. I mean, probably pitch for pitch, Easton's our best pitcher. I mean, like,
and he's always been that way. He's been that way since I've seen him. Since he came out of junior futures and tore it up then, he's had 3 pitches in the zone. He's been an absolute dog on the mound.
Yes, very much so. And I tell people that all the time. I mean, we got some guys that can go win a couple furry bears at the county fair, and then you got Easton, who's just going to paint a masterpiece almost every single time. And
compete, man. He's going to compete.
Yes.
That dude, he wants to just win. If I got to do it dirty, if I got to do it, however I got to do it, we're going to win.
Yeah, he is a fun guy to call pitches for. He's a fun guy to watch pitch, and so he's going to be our number 2 this year, and he's going to be our starting shortstop. He's a strong kid. His arm is strong. You know, the velo is only getting better day by day, but he's the guy who has the ability to play shortstop regularly and has the arm strength and just the overall body strength to lock it down for us. I don't want to. We've talked a lot about the different rotations that we can have this year from a defensive standpoint. And so we're going to try to just kind of go with one utility guy and keep the lineup pretty much set most of the time. But Easton's going to be our shortstop. And then backing him up at shortstop will be Nate Christensen. He's a transfer for us from Millard South.
Nate. Forgot to mention Nate. Yes.
And Nate is our edge guy. Like he just brings a lot of competitiveness and a lot of versatility. We sat down in the fall after football season, and I said, "Hey man, like I just got to know you're okay with this. You might be at third, 1 inning short the next 2, second, and he just bought into it, and he's really coming around with the bat. And so Nate's going to be a huge part of our plans, and he's going to be a middle reliever for us / end of the game guy because he competes. Joe Kaliga is going to be on the mound for us at the end of the game because they just compete. They're not maybe the most polished of pitchers you've ever seen, but those guys just compete. So Nate's going to give us a huge amount of depth in the infield. And then Lucas Heller, he's the 6th man on the basketball team. He was a wideout for the football team. Heck, he's probably going to graduate from Skutt Catholic with the most varsity letters of any athlete in the history of Skutt Catholic, and that's saying a lot. And so he's going to bring a ton of versatility. He can play second or short for us. Bubba Day right now is slotted as our second baseman, but he's also making some transition to the outfield. And doing some things out there. And just because of Lucas's ability and Nate's ability, we were able to kind of move Bubba out to left field when we need to for pitching purposes. And so up the middle, we feel very confident with those guys. A ton of skill set there. They're young. I mean, that's 3 sophomores and a junior that I just mentioned. And, you know, those guys are going to just give us the depth and the versatility that we need to really protect arms. You know, our number 3 right now is Bubba Day. He's going to be our 3 in the pitching rotation, play a ton of second base for us. And then Huston Baren will be our 4 on the mound. He's a junior for us, was I think 1-2 last year, but threw a no-hitter versus Fremont, drew some tough straws, had him to be the starter versus Millard West, and went 4 clean versus them in a 0-0 game. And so I'm really excited to see what Huston can kind of do for us in that 4 slot. And with 4 arms like that, I'm pretty happy with where we are on the mound. And then you kind of get into the bullpen of those guys just being really, really competitive. I like how the pitching staff kind of sets up.
And obviously coaching in college, and especially where the game is going, you're going to need to move around anyway as you move up. You know, if you think you're just a shortstop and you're going to play shortstop your whole career, well, I have bad news coming for you because it's going to get tough.
Really? Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning as that goes. And the good thing about them is they're all very interchangeable. They're all very much into what we need to do to be successful, and they're very open to having to move. Easton brings us some versatility if we need him to go to third base. Right now, Cooper Smith is kind of vying for that third base job. Luke Van Dyke, a senior who's just a winner, is kind of vying for that third base job. Third base is probably the one spot in our immediate that we're trying to get some answers to, but there's tons of options there. And that might be something you just see a different guy over there all the time, just depending upon who's feeling it, who's swinging the bat that day. But I feel real confident that all those guys can go in and do exactly what we need them to do when called upon.
Yeah, I mean, you've coached enough baseball, highs and lows of a season, slumps, no slumps. If you're hitting, you're playing. That's usually how it goes. I don't care how good you can pick it or field it. If you're hitting, I'll find a spot in the lineup for you. So young guys on the Skutt Catholic team, start hitting, brother.
Yeah, that is definitely true. There's a lot of guys from the University of Nebraska-Kearney that couldn't play defense then, but they sure found a way into the lineup.
Talked about some of the players. I'd like you to highlight 1 or 2, maybe those upperclassmen that are undercommitted, under-recruited right now, and how are they going about their offseason? What do they bring to the table for any college coaches looking to add some guys this spring?
I would say in the 2026 class, Cooper Smith by far is kind of the one I'm sitting there a little scratching my head as far as hasn't signed yet. I mean, if you look at his pedigree and you look at what he's accomplished prior to coming to Skutt, just in the summer circuit and playing with the right teams and doing the right thing. He was just out at Martin Luther King I think he caught 6 guys all over 94. And did it very, very well. The offense has some juice to it. There's a little swing and miss, but that's okay. There's always going to be that when you have the power numbers or the power potential that he has. And so Cooper's going to be a big guy for us. He's going to be a good addition to our program. And I think as he continues to kind of work through just the ebb and flow of a high school season coming from summer baseball season that they have in Iowa and coming over to the spring season. But he's a guy, if you're a college coach that's looking for a field general, a catcher type of player, he can really frame it back there. He can really handle pitching staffs. The arm plays. The bat's going to be a good bat for you that has some upside to it. And so he's kind of the one that I look up right now and say, hey, why is that guy not signed? But I think that's just kind of a sign of the times right now with everybody, NIL, transfer portal.
Yeah, he's a future games guy for us. He came down to Atlanta. I thought he did really well down there for us. Versatile, like you said. He's going to play probably potentially some third base for you guys. Can move it around. He's athletic enough that you can vision him, long term, playing a different position. I think his bat's going to play in college.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, the biggest upside for him will be hitting. He can really.
He's got a little swing and miss, like you said, but the juice is there. I think contact and the hit tool will come. I think, obviously, maybe not obviously, but Iowa kids tend to get buried with that summer season a little bit. They don't get to go and do the whole summer circuit. So I think, or the hope is, moving over to Nebraska and getting a little bit more exposure in spring and summer will kind of jolt his recruiting. But you're right. It's a slower process now for everybody. Yep. Older classmen or seniors, juniors, everybody's slowing that process down. So the expectations need to change, I think, for kids and how early they're going to get recruited in some of these things.
And then I'd also say in our 2026 class, Nate Christensen, transfer from Millard South, real versatile player, real athletic type of kid, super fast, probably going to run somewhere near a sub 6'7" that he's done. He's going to be a guy to definitely watch. And then Huston Baren, our fourth in our pitching rotation. He's got to look for. He's going to be 84, 85. I think there's another jump coming velo-wise, but he can pitch. He can really, really pitch. It's not just a stuff thing with him. He controls the run game, does things really, really well. So Huston Baron's another guy that I would definitely keep on your radar. And then we kind of have a funky sign left-hander who's really had a good offseason. He's a basketballer, obviously, by the name of George Zeibel. But it's 6'9", it's left-handed, it's funky as all can get out. And so he's a guy to kind of keep an eye out as he kind of gets up to speed and what he can do for us. He's going to get some opportunities to start, especially at the beginning of the year when everything's kind of jumbled up and we're on limited pitch counts. But there's definitely a lot of talent from our 2028 class all the way up through our 2025 class of really college level players at all different levels. And I used to have a better handle. You used to be able to look at a guy and kind of slot him for, that he could fit at this school or he could fit at that. And I'd probably throw that all out the window now. I just really would. With the way these kids grow and the way they train, the way they lift. I mean, it seems like I left for Christmas break and came back from it and, someone's put on 15 pounds. And it's just so I think
college, they get to college and they're still doing it. They're going from D2s to University of Virginia, because they can level up and do some of those things now.
Yeah, and so I think we're deep. I think the one thing I will say, our freshman class is absolutely loaded with athletes. I think we're going to end up having somewhere near 35 to 40 freshmen trying out for our baseball program. So as you kind of think about the collegiate pipeline of things, I'm pretty excited with where we're at as a high school baseball program.
Yeah, those guys you mentioned, I know we talked about Nate. The versatility, I think, plays in college. He's going to be a versatile infielder, and if you're looking for a guy that can play all three and has his chance with the bat and be able to handle it a little bit, I think he's right up your alley. And who's not looking for arms? A 6'9" left-hander and a 84, 85-mile-an-hour righty that can throw 3 pitches in the zone. Those are things I think that when I was coaching college, that's what I wanted to know. Those are the types of things. Hey, we got an interesting lefty that from a different angle. Hey, we got an 84-5 right-hander that can throw 3 pitches in the zone. That's what coaches want to hear. So we're going to do our part to help those kids out and try and get them a little bit more exposure. Last season, coming into this season, obviously the easy goal is state championship, win a ring. But at the end of the year, when you look back on it, what is going to define success for Skutt baseball in 2025?
I think I honestly just feel like if we can continue to build the culture, I think that's a huge thing for me, is just kind of building the expectation of being very, very successful. I think that'll be it. And I've been in enough tournaments. I've been around enough good teams who have not gotten it done in tournament time. Our goal is just to get there. That's our whole goal this year, is to make it to the state tournament and see what happens for those 5 days. And hopefully, you know, we feel like we have the talent and the ability to be standing on top at the end, but everyone kind of feels that right now. So I think when you kind of talk about big goals and those types of things, for us, it's just simply, can we get out of this team's super talented. They just are. I can try to squash it and try to, you know, coach speak and all that type of thing. But there's a really talented group of individuals that are hungry to be successful. And so my goal is really, and our whole coaching staff's goal is to just kind of channel them really all moving in the same direction, be there to do a better job of picking them up. And being more positive. Sometimes in high school baseball, like I learned, is positivity goes a long way with young people. And that's on me as a coach, and that's on us as a coaching staff to do better. That's something that we've really worked on as a coaching staff. And so when we sit down and look back on, you know, May the Memorial Day or whatever it is, you know, we hope to have a ring, be a champion. But I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned along the way that are going to help us to build the type of culture that we want. And Skutt's got a heck of a reputation, and they've had a heck of a tradition. You know, Coach Lakovic did a great job before I got here. I told people all the time, I didn't inherit some broken program. It's a very proud program. And I'm just part of the amendment, you know, the amazing tradition that Coach Engelkamp started a long, long time ago. Coach Exner's the one who got it done with that state championship in 2017. And we're hoping to add one here in 2025.
Coach, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We're excited for 2025. I know we're probably not going to help in the Prep Baseball Nebraska side of the talent and hyping you guys up. So I don't apologize for that, but good luck handling that with your group. Like I said, can't be more excited for 2025. I think the state of Nebraska is wide open in most classes, and I think it's going to be an absolute dogfight for all the state titles this year. So I'm happy to be a part of it. Excited to see what you do with this year's group. Thanks for coming on. We enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Thank you all that you do for covering high school baseball. I don't think people understand how good high school baseball is in the state of Nebraska. I think if I do my math right, I think after the sport of volleyball, Nebraska's next best export is college baseball players. And I think that's a testament to the high school coaches, the way that they go about doing their business, the way that they develop young people. And so I can't thank PBR enough for all that you do in covering our sport. We're looking forward to an exciting 2025.
With that, join us next week on another edition of the All Beef No Filler podcast. We'll be back with more coaches interviews. Thanks. Appreciate it, Coach.
No problem, pal. Let me know if you need anything else, and let me go for